Hey, what's going on, everyone? Boilon here for another video on Marvel Strike Force. Today, we're going to be talking about my top 5 best teams for Cosmic Crucible, and the reason why we're talking about this is because that game mode is not long around the corner. I think the patch probably is going to be next Tuesday or Wednesday. So I think it's about time that we start talking about this again. Finally, we're getting the game mode. It was supposed to be in 6.0, but, now it's going to be 6.1. But hey, it looks like we are actually finally getting it. So I want to talk about some of the teams that you may not have leveled up necessarily, but teams that you might want to consider for Cosmic Crucible. Now, in this video, we're not going to be talking about any of the existing Doom Raid teams, because that's a bit redundant. So, the teams like Eternals, Web Warriors, Secret Avengers, things like this, that you're probably going to already have geared up for those veterans who are doing Doom Raid 2 and beyond. So we're not going to be talking about any of those because, well, you probably already have them. So this is all about ones that you may or may not have at this stage. So without further ado, let's get this show started. One thing that I want to talk about really quickly before we go to specific teams in the top 5 is there are some teams that I think that probably should be mentioned in this, but they're not. And that's largely because I don't think they're in the top 5, but they're probably in the top 10. Again, not Doom Raid related, but there is one team specifically, and I'll say right now, they're not in the top 5, and that's Black Order. Well, these 4 plus Thanos, because Thanos technically is part of that team. And so I think this is going to be a really good team in Cosmic Crucible, but it's a very old team at this stage, and it's not a team that I personally can recommend people building at this stage. So that's kind of the reason why I wanted to give it an honorable shout out, I guess, here, because for veterans who probably already have this, I think you're going to make use of them. But unfortunately, it's at this stage, 2 years old now, and it's not a team that I can personally recommend for others to raise. They were arena meta, of course, and so this trend of arena meta viable characters tend to be good all around. Alliance War and probably Cosmic Crucible as well. But there are going to be better teams than Black Order, but I did want to just kind of point this one out ahead of time before we get to any of the other ones. So I think that's going to be really important. And obviously, like I said in the beginning, teams like Secret Avengers, teams like Web Warriors, New Warriors, Eternals, all of these are going to be characters you're very likely, especially Eternals, are going to be characters that you're going to be using in one form or another in Cosmic Crucible, because they're just mega OP. Eternals are arena meta, and so anything that's arena meta is gonna, is something that you're gonna want to use. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with Cosmic Crucible in general, there is going to be 6 defense teams, and then technically as many offense teams as you'd like. The goal is for you to clear the 6 defense teams, however many attacks it takes you to do that. So, if you have 6 offense teams that clears the 6 defense teams, then great. Then technically you only need 12 teams. But you do want some more options for offense depending on what they're going to use on the defense. And so that's why I wouldn't say everything that we're going to talk about here today is about Cosmic Crucible offense, but there will be some additional options for those of you who might not have thought about it. So now let's get to the top 5. Okay, so starting in at number 5 is a team that, well, I don't actually have built all that high. Is going to be the Uncanny X-Men Magic variant at number 5. And this team is interesting. So if any of you may have followed, say, Dorky Dad or Mr. Hargrave, I believe they both use this quite heavily in Avengers Tower. I did not, but, it's a very interesting team, and it can actually be quite strong offensively, especially if you have a higher magic. If you put some resources, I guess, into a gear tier 14 Cyclops and Storm, there's some pretty good stuff that you can do with this team offensively. Magic, gives that extra oof, if you will, because of the charges, right? Having essentially full charges. Unfortunately, you have to put some investment into magic, and her release method wasn't good. As far as free-to-play shards go, this is with additional premium or random pulls and stuff that I managed to get to 4-star. And you're going to want to get the T4s into her Daemonic Might special, because this is what's important to apply the extra 10 charges on top of, instead of +5 is +10, which is super important to maximizing your damage on Uncanny X-Men. So obviously, you're going to be running Magic, Phoenix, Colossus, Cyclops, and Storm. But I think that this is going to surprise some people. What am I going to build it? I don't know if I'm going to have time to do it. But if you're someone who maybe has some additional resources and you are someone who wants to perform a little bit better in Cosmic Crucible, I think this will actually do pretty well for you. So this is the first team here, starting in at number 5, Uncanny X-Men and Magic. Now, coming in at number 4, this might surprise some people, and kind of like number 5, mine aren't built that heavily, but I think this is also going to surprise people actually more than Uncanny X-Men Magic, and that's the Ravagers, or New Ravagers, or whatever you want to call them, Revengers. Some people are calling them the Revengers, and that's because they're actually a lot stronger than people think they are. Believe it or not, they're also really, really good in Blitz. I know, like, who gives a shit about Blitz? But, like, they've actually managed to surprise me at the gear tier, whatever the hell this is, level. I've been able to up-punch a lot of meta teams in Auto-Sim Blitz, and I was really surprised. I've actually played them manually, and I've seen other people use them. I know the content creator McMole loves this team, and I think that despite it being a War Offense team, I think this is going to be a strong Cosmic Crucible offense team. I probably would not put them on the defense, because I think that the problem with Ravager Bruiser is he doesn't really taunt on demand. He doesn't have spawn taunt, and so there's a bit of a problem there from a defensive perspective. I think you could probably easily counter this on defense with, like, Eternals. You could probably just blow them out of the water with that, probably, is what I'm assuming. But offensively, they do really well. You know, they do really good against teams that have buffs. They steal buffs with Yondu. Star-Lord takes that from everyone else and spreads it around. The summons, Yondu is actually a pretty good character now, and the damage on Ravager Boomer and the rework to Ravager Stitcher was quite stellar. All around, I think this rework was very good. And so this puts them at one of the best minion teams in the game, also with Yondu and with Star-Lord T'Challa. So really, really good team here. So this is my number 4. I think this is going to be a bit of a dark horse, personally. Is everyone going to do it? Probably not. And I guess that's the unfortunate thing, is that I think that resources are going to be tough and tight. But if you're someone who has already invested in Star-Lord T'Challa or Ravager Stitcher, say for Dark Dimension 5 Cosmic, I think that this is something that you should probably pursue a little bit further. And, you know, maybe at least take them to gear tier 14. The minions are actually pretty easy to gear. Gear-wise, I'm not sure about Yondu, but I'm pretty sure for Bruiser, Boomer, and especially Stitcher, they're very cheap to gear. So at least at the gear tier 14 level for Cosmic Crucible, I think that this is something that you could definitely use. So, hey, Ravagers at number 4. So coming in at number 3 is Infinity Watch, and you kind of may have guessed that I was going to say something like this because of what I said about Black Order. So Infinity Watch is not the meta anymore. It's been about almost a year, not quite a year, but almost. But Infinity Watch was the arena top dogs, and so therefore they're kind of very well rounded in just about every aspect of the game. They are really good in Alliance War. Some people still use them in arena, but the issue is that because of their age, some players, especially early mid-game players now, may not have this team built up. Most veterans will have this team because they had gone through the motions for the arena meta. But where things get a bit tight is, like, say, Nebula and Moondragon now, maybe Phyla-Vell as well. Hell, maybe even Adam Warlock. Some people may not have built all this stuff now because they're not quite in the top of the meta. But the reason why Cosmic Crucible is different is because they're not using Alliance War text characters. They're not using any of this, right? So who's going to perform the best in Cosmic Crucible are going to be those very well-rounded teams. And who do those tend to be? Tends to be the arena meta, right? Because even Darkhold, you know, which we're not talking about, they're going to be probably very good in Cosmic Crucible as well, because they don't have a lot of callouts specifically to any game mode. Unfortunately, teams like Heroes for Hire, which is not going to be mentioned in this list, are going to be very shit, because they have specific war defense traits that are going to be very specific to that team, and they're just like, they're not super amazing outside of war defense. But Infinity Watch is probably going to crush a lot of things still, because they counter to a large degree. Yeah, they just sustain their way through. You know, with Adam Warlock and Safeguard, this isn't reliant on a particular game mode. So yes, Infinity Watch are still going to be strong. Whether or not you want to build them entirely from scratch, that's a tough decision, and I'm not sure I can really answer that. All I can say is I know that this team is going to be very good, and obviously we need to be very concerned about our resource management, right? So not everyone is going to be able to do this, but this is still going to be a very top team for Cosmic Crucible. If this is a game mode that is important to you, or you feel is going to be important to you, then I think this is going to be very important. So, Infinity Watch here at number 3. I think I said important one too many times, but you get my drift. So let's move on to number 2. Okay, coming in at number 2, Weapon X. Now, this probably also won't surprise very many people. But what's interesting is that this is an Alliance War team. And it is... And I think part of the reason, to be honest, is because Omega Red exists. He's a legendary character. He's a very incredibly powerful character. And, you know, most people probably will have some degree of investment in this team. If you haven't, I personally recommend it. Lady Deathstrike is a super great character. She's easily in that top meta of especially as a standalone character. You know, I use her every single day in Doomray Tech. Omega Red, great character, well-rounded. I actually probably say I use Lady Deathstrike more on a regular basis because of Doomray Tech than Omega Red. But regardless, still, Omega Red is a super powerful character, and this team as a whole, I think, while they shine more in War, a lot of people use them in War Offense to counter things like Heroes for Hire. I think you're still going to get a lot of value on this team in Cosmic Crucible, because Omega Red himself can still apply trauma outside of War. I know it's mostly on this here. And I don't believe his ultimate doesn't do it right. That's War only, I'm pretty sure. I know it's a lot of text in War Apply Trauma, so he doesn't get that on his ultimate, but he does get that on his special. And so I think that there's a lot of value here still for Weapon X. As far as if you look at all of the current releases, this is definitely something that I can say that you're going to get value out of. Now, some people are deciding to take more of these characters into Dark Dimension 5 because there's kind of an issue with mutant gear, I suppose, outside of the legendary lane, and so people are trying to find value for their mutant gear. And actually, I'm probably planning on taking Silver Samurai to Dark Dimension 5. That's just another aside. Whether or not that's amazing, I don't know. But that's my plan anyways. So this is a team that I'm going to be putting more investment into. The only one for me that currently doesn't have that much investment is Wolverine. He's stuck at tier 13. And personally, I think that if you're going to invest in a character or a team, you should probably take them at least to gear tier 14, because I think that that's where I know that's where their stats really kick in. And so if you're going to put any level of investment, you should probably do at least that. You can compensate with gold, though, if you don't have the gear for whatever reason. Level 80, level 85, all of this will, you know, result in a huge increase in stats. But Weapon X, definitely a great team that still counters a lot of teams. And like I said, because War Text isn't active, Weapon X is still a very powerful character without those, a team rather. And so you're going to be coming across a lot of these teams that actually don't have any particular team traits yet. So Weapon X coming in at the number 2 slot. Maybe you guys might be curious who's at number 1. Maybe you won't, but let's find out. Okay, and so coming in at the number 1 spot, and for those of you who are close followers of my channel, might not find this too surprising, but there's a couple of reasons why this has to be here. Young Avengers are actually, believe it or not, a very, very good team. Okay? I don't think there's many people out there talking up Young Avengers, but I've been talking them up basically since I started building them. And yes, it's a war defense team. I get it. But they are way, way better than Heroes for Hire as far as being used in other game modes. It's unfortunate that, you know, Weapon X counters them, but to be honest, Young Avengers don't have a legendary. Weapon X is a legendary team in War, you know, and Young Avengers are not. So as far as non-legendary teams go, these are very good. And the great thing is that Kate Bishop was fixed, finally. This was like my fucking... I didn't mean to swear there, but this was like my thing to glory before the, you know, the end of the Envoy program and all of that. So, you know, they finally fixed Kate Bishop's passive to work outside of Alliance War. So the part where she actually applies Blind and Slow when Young Avenger allies drop below 50% health, it does a random, unfortunately random, but applies Blind and Slow to that character, is really, really good. Because this team goes up and down below those HP thresholds with Squirrel Girl a lot. And so in Cosmic Crucible, now that this is viable in Cosmic Crucible, yeah, you're going to be getting a lot of blinds. This is going to be a pain in the ass on Cosmic Crucible defense. But not only defense, this is also going to be a very good offense team. Okay? This team can counter Infinity Watch. Yes, you've heard it. One of the other best teams that I've listed in this video, these guys can counter it. So, Young Avengers are really great on the offense. They're very good on the defense. And they're just a pain in the ass through and through. And I don't know if anyone's really had the chance to fight these. But think about fighting them. Do you guys remember Avengers Tower? I forget what floor it is. 65, something like that. There's a Young Avengers team there. That's a pain in the ass team to fight. And that's what it's going to look like in Cosmic Crucible for those who have these built up a little bit higher. Personally, I really enjoy this team. I think there's a lot to it. And not just for Cosmic Crucible. I kind of have a weird suspicion that they might be the next Scourge team. We'll see if I'm right or not on that part. But I still think, regardless, that this is going to be a very, very solid team for the upcoming game mode of Cosmic Crucible. Because they can do both ends of it. They can do defense and offense. Very fun team to play. I really, I am a little bit biased, admittedly, because my Squirrel Girl's amazing, but I still think that this is a team that everyone should at least consider. You don't have to build this if you don't want to, but I still think that this is going to be one of the top teams, definitely top 5, when counting all of those other Doom Raid teams that I didn't mention. I think this is going to be a solid team for Cosmic Crucible. And that's where I'm going to end this video. Let me know if you think I missed something, anything in the comments down below. Is there a team that I didn't mention that wasn't these top 5 or a Doom Raid team, because I mentioned that those weren't going to be covered? Let me know in the comments down below if you think there's something that I should have added. So that's the end of this one. And until next time, everyone, of course, stay safe and healthy. And let's look forward to any future news on Cosmic Crucible. And hopefully it does indeed come on Tuesday or Wednesday for patch 6.1. Boilon signing out.